There is a creature living in tide pools and shallow reefs across the Indo-Pacific that divers are specifically warned about before they enter the water. Not sharks, not jellyfish, something much smaller, and in some ways, far stranger. And the warning is not just, "Don't touch it." It goes further than that. This video is about the blue-ringed octopus, what it actually is, how it works, and why the more scientists study it, the more unsettling the picture becomes. Most people have heard the name. Fewer people have heard the real details. And there is one thing about this animal that almost nobody outside of research circles is aware of, something discovered just recently, that changes how dangerous this creature actually is. We will get to that. But first, let us start with something that most people get completely wrong. The blue-ringed octopus does not look the way you think it does. Not most of the time. If you have seen photos of it, you probably picture something vivid and unmistakable. Bright blue rings glowing against a pale body. Impossible to miss. But that is not its resting state. In its normal, unbothered condition, this animal is dull. It is mottled brown and yellowish, blending into sand and rock and coral rubble the way most small octopuses do. The blue rings are hidden. They are there, but they are not active. What happens when the animal feels threatened is that the rings switch on. Muscles pull tight around dark pigment cells, and specialized reflective cells called iridophores catch the light and throw it back in a very specific way. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Biology found that these iridophore cells contain stacks of tiny plates, arranged so precisely that they reflect light at around 500 nanometers, right in the blue-green range, and they are oriented so the signal is visible from multiple angles at once. The rings are not painted on. They are built like microscopic mirrors. And here is why that matters. This creature does not wear its warning sign all the time. It turns it on when you are already too close. By the time you see the blue rings, the situation has already changed. That is the thing that separates this animal from most dangerous marine life. A shark you can see coming. A stonefish you learn to avoid by looking at the seafloor carefully. But a blue-ringed octopus can be sitting in a crevice or tucked inside a shell, looking like nothing worth worrying about. And the moment it feels cornered, it lights up. And at that point, the danger is not approaching. It is already there. So, what is the actual danger? The venom is called tetrodotoxin, or TTX. It is one of the most potent neurotoxins found in nature, and what makes it especially difficult to deal with is that it does not come from the octopus itself. It is produced by bacteria living inside the animal's salivary glands, and the octopus concentrates it. The toxin works by blocking sodium channels in nerve cells, which stops nerves from firing. That leads to muscle paralysis, and if the muscles controlling breathing stop working, that is when things become fatal. Here is the detail that divers are specifically warned about by organizations like Divers Alert Network. The bite may be almost invisible. It can be so small and so painless that a person does not realize they have been bitten at all. No dramatic pain. No immediate swelling, just a tiny mark. And then, as the toxin spreads, a descending paralysis that can reach the respiratory muscles within minutes. There is no antivenom. Treatment is entirely supportive. Pressure immobilization to slow the spread, and if breathing fails, artificial ventilation until the toxin clears. The scariest bite in the tide pool may be the one you barely feel. And if you have ever heard the advice about using hot water to treat marine stings, that works for things like box jellyfish, where heat breaks down the proteins in the venom. It does not work here. TTX is heat stable. It does not break down. This is not the kind of venom you fix with a hot water trick. Now, all of that is alarming enough on its own. But there is something else about this animal that most people do not know, and it is the reason the warnings around it have become more specific in recent years. The warning is not just, "Don't touch the octopus." It is, "Don't touch the object the octopus may be hiding inside." Because of their size, most blue-ringed octopuses are roughly the size of a golf ball. And because they have no skeleton, they can fit into extremely small spaces. Divers Alert Network explicitly warns people not to reach into or pick up bottles, cans, or mollusk shells in areas where these animals live. The octopus dens in whatever fits. A shell someone finds on a beach and picks up as a souvenir. A bottle wedged in a reef. A gap in a rock that looks empty. The animal is not out in the open waiting to be seen. It is inside something that looks harmless. That is the behavioral reality that makes this creature so difficult to avoid. It is not aggressive. It does not chase. It is a small reclusive animal that wants to hide. The problem is that the places it hides are exactly the places human hands tend to go. But here is where things get genuinely strange, and this is the part of the story that has only recently started to come into focus. A 2025 report on the Japanese blue-lined octopus found something unexpected. The animal may be able to release tetrodotoxin directly from its skin and muscles, not just through a bite. In the experiment, when a predator was nearby, the octopus reacted, and TTX was detected in the surrounding environment. Direct contact was not required. The octopus appeared to respond to the predator's presence through visual or chemical cues and released the toxin as part of its defense. The bite is not the only weapon. In some cases, the skin itself can become part of the defense. This is significant because it expands the threat model in a way that is hard to fully account for. We already knew the bite was dangerous. The idea that proximity alone, in certain conditions, might be enough to expose someone to TTX is a different kind of concern entirely. And it connects to something even more unusual about how this toxin works in the animal's body more broadly. TTX is not just stored in the salivary glands. It is distributed throughout the body, in the skin, in the muscles, in the organs. That means the blue-ringed octopus is not only venomous in the traditional sense, it is also, technically, poisonous. If something eats it, the toxin is still there. The Natural History Museum notes there has been at least one recorded case of a human being poisoned after accidentally eating a blue-ringed octopus. This animal is not only dangerous when it bites, it can also be dangerous when something tries to eat it. Now here is the part of this story that I find genuinely remarkable, and it connects back to something I mentioned earlier about the toxin being produced by bacteria rather than the octopus itself. Research on the species Hapalochlaena lunulata found that female blue-ringed octopuses invest TTX into their eggs, and the toxin levels in the offspring correlate with the toxin levels in the mother. But what makes this even more interesting is that after the eggs are laid, TTX levels in the developing young continue to rise, which suggests the young animals, or the bacteria living within them, may begin producing toxin independently before they ever hatch. These babies do not enter the ocean helpless. They may be chemically armed from the very beginning. Think about what that means in terms of survival. Most juvenile marine animals are extremely vulnerable. They are small, they are soft, they have no defenses. But these hatchlings may carry one of the most potent neurotoxins in the ocean from their first moments of life. And if you thought the venom behavior in this species could not get any stranger, there is one more finding from 2025 that rounds this out in a way that is difficult to forget. A study published in Current Biology looked at mating behavior in male blue-lined octopuses. In many cephalopod species, sexual cannibalism is a real risk. Females are often larger, and males can be eaten during or after mating. The study found that male blue-ringed octopuses use a precise bite at the beginning of mating, targeting the female's aorta, to inject TTX. The researchers interpreted this as a mechanism that may help the male survive the encounter. For this octopus, venom is not only for predators, it may also be part of surviving reproduction. So this is an animal where the toxin is involved in defense, in offense, in reproduction, in the protection of offspring, and potentially in passive chemical deterrence through the skin. It is woven into almost every part of how this creature exists in the world. And we do not even fully know how many species of it there are. Only 4 are formally named and described, but the Natural History Museum notes there may be as many as 10 distinct species. One of them, Hapalochlaena nearstrassi, is so poorly documented that it has only been officially recorded twice in recorded history. Once near the Andaman Islands in 1938 and once near Chennai in 2013. That is it. Decades apart, 2 sightings, and then nothing. Whatever that species is doing, wherever it is living, we have almost no idea. If this kind of content is what you are into, genuinely strange biology, the parts of the natural world that do not behave the way you expect, subscribe, because that is what this channel is built around. And if you have ever had a close encounter with something in the ocean that made you rethink what you thought you knew, drop it in the comments. I read them, and some of the best follow-up videos come from what people share there. The blue-ringed octopus is small enough to fit in your palm, dull enough to overlook, and quiet enough that most people who encounter one in the wild never know it was there. It does not flash its warning until you are already within reach. Its venom has no antidote, distributes through its entire body, and may in some cases not even require a bite to be released. Its young may hatch already armed, and somewhere out there, there are species of it we have barely seen. The ocean has a lot of things worth being cautious around. This one earns the warning in a way that most do not.